Guys, if there was ever a season that was more geared towards this guy, I legit do not know of his existence. Because number one crush, Emma Roberts. 80s slasher is my favorite subgenre. You put those two things together in a high production value show, you've got my attention all damn day. Now, I will, of course, be a little biased about this because, I mean, it has all the elements I want, but, I mean, I guess I'm the best person to speak on it then, because this is geared towards me specifically. I mean, this shit couldn't have been more written for me. So now, what American Horror Story does best, and this is something I feel is unarguable, like, you can say whatever the hell you want about this show, but one thing they're incredible with, marketing. They're second to none. I mean, they're just absolutely incredible. So when this was announced, I've been there for like every announcement since season 1 of like what the theme's going to be. You know, when for like season 2 on, it was just like, oh, it's going to be an asylum, it's going to be a coven of witches, it's going to be a freak show, it's going to be a hotel, it's going to, you know, it was just like, oh, okay. And then you start building it, and then the ads, the promos, the, you know, TV spots, all that stuff, incredible stuff. Whoever works that side of things does an incredible job, and this one is, you know, no exception at all. This one has incredible marketing. The posters feel very 80s slashers, but with more of a modern day spin on them. It's great stuff all around. So I was so damn excited for this show. And so let's talk about it. All right, episode 1, Camp Redwood, bringing back Emma Roberts. We got Billy Lord, we got Cody Fern. You know, we got a lot of people from previous seasons. You know, we're missing some. I think this is the first season. Is this the first season without Evan Peters? I think it might be. But yeah, so it's weird to not have him in it. I'm hoping that maybe he'll make like a cameo or something, just so that he's like in every single season. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he's been in every season. As far as the episode goes, I mean, I'm going to get into spoilers here in a second, but I will say this. I thought it was a great episode. I mean, it's a really good starter. The only real, it's not a complaint, because I get what they're going for, and it does work, but I don't want them to rely too heavily on tropes. I don't want it to just be a greatest hits of tropes. And this first episode is that. And while it continues to go on, I hope that they get more creative and more inventive and reinvent the subgenre instead of relying on like, oh, hey, have you seen a bunch of 1980s slashers? Like, we've seen them too, and here's the laundry list of tropes that we've picked up on, and here they are, you know, one by one. And they are all here. I mean, so many. It's so blatantly obvious. It's hyper aware of itself in that, you know, in that way. Almost something like a house, freaking Cabin in the Woods. Why the hell that one is slipping my mind there? But it's just the, you know, you got all this, you got all the archetypes here. You've got the gas station guy, you got the summer camp, you've got, I mean, we're gonna go through some of the tropes here, but it's just like, come on, guys. It's like, I like it. Cool. Set the tone. Remind us that this is 1980s slasher. Cool. But let's just not overdo it with the rest of the season. I'm fine with it being in this episode, maybe the next, but eventually they need to just start moving away from too many of them. So I'm just going to use that up front as my only real complaint, because I don't want them to use those as a crutch, because that would get old for me. All right, so we get a great opening here with this summer camp. You know, here's some more trope stuff. This whole episode is tropey. It's fine. But summer camp, a couple teens, I should say 3 teens are having a little 3-way, and this girl, she's reluctant, but then she goes and she takes off her shirt, and as she pulls, spoilers obviously, we're from here on, As she goes to take off her shirt, in that second that it covers her vision and she pulls it up and over, the two have been double impaled, which is kind of a, slasher trope as well, whether it be Friday the 13th Part 2 or a whole bunch of them. But yeah, one right through the mouth as they're kissing. Great kill. Looks great. And then she gets it right through the eye. Boom, right there through the eye. And that looks great as well. And then the killer cuts her ear off, makes an ear necklace, which we find out later he was actually in Vietnam and started making those ear necklaces, which, if you're a film fan, I think you know what movie I'm going to be referencing right now, but Universal Soldier, anybody? Come on, this is, I'm all ears. Yeah, you guys, I would hope that you guys have seen that one. If not, hey man, it's probably my favorite Van Damme movie. I love that damn movie. But yeah, so that one, that opening is really cool. You got the killer's trademark, so every killer has to have his trademark. So you got the ear cutting off. And then we get the 80s opening credits. And the opening credits are just wonderful. Tracking lines and neon colors and aerobics and just all 80s out, which is great. And I know there are going to be people, and I've seen them well before this, that are just so tired of the 80s retrospective nostalgia capitalization. And I can understand that, but because I'm such a fan of it, it just doesn't get old to me. But as previously stated more times than probably it should have been at this point, but just don't rely too much on it. That's all I say. But in 1984, 1984 seems to be a year that a lot of these guys are using, whether it be summer of 84, a season of freaking Stranger Things, or there's like all sorts of 1984s now, which, Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, came out in 1984, and I consider that to be the greatest slasher film of all time, and a lot of people do as well, so maybe that's the year that they picked for a reason because of that. I don't know. Then it cuts to a essential, like, sweating to the oldies, aerobicize kind of scene, something like Axel from Friday the 13th, Part 4, final chapter. There you go, a little reference there. Would be watching. And then we find out about the Night Stalker. And then Emma Roberts' character named Brooke meets Montana. And Montana and her become friends because Montana is very pushy. And Brooke has eyes on Chet, which is just, Chet, the immediate name that's going to come, or the immediate character connection you're going to hear when you hear Chet is Bill Paxton's character in Weird Science. So, but it is just such a douchebag name. It really is. Like, anytime you hear it, and I think that's just because of Bill Paxton, but, as soon as you hear it, you're just like, Chet. And then Xavier is the class instructor, and I don't know. It's the 80s. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from him because he acts gay? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's been revealed or not. But yeah, I'm assuming, but maybe I shouldn't assume, but they're making him pretty gay. And which is fine, by the way. I don't care at all. So before you, what are you saying, man? Don't give a shit. So they stop at a gas station. Okay, I should back it up and say that Brooke was assaulted by a guy who claims to be the Night Stalker, and this is what sends Brooke out on her journey with these guys. She wasn't going to go with them. She doesn't know these people, and so she's going to go out, and she is going to try to get away from her house, from the situation. It's nice to just be able to drop everything like that, especially when she's enrolled in school to be a veterinarian's assistant, but I guess she can just disappear. But it's summer, right? Shouldn't she be off for summer break? from college. I mean, and that's why they're going to the summer camp, because it's summer, and I don't know. But she said, I have these classes there. I don't know. But there she goes with them. So this happens kind of coincidentally enough for her to come with them. I thought maybe that guy was a plant at first, like he was pushing her into this, but why would anyone think that that would make her leave with them? Like, it would make more sense if her friend, like one of them ran in right after it happened and was like, okay, like I'll take care of you, but you got to come with me or something. So I don't think so, especially since he shows up at the end of this episode looking for her. So we have at least 2 killers on the premises at the end of this episode. And as I said, okay, getting back to the gas station, since I got a little ahead of myself, so we close get to the very tropey gas station guy. You're all gonna die, right? Okay, Crazy Ralph, check. We got him. Then Xavier gets this weird message when he calls back to his answering machine. Something about like taking your dick. I don't know who this was. I don't know what. I don't know if that was like his boyfriend calling him, or that remains to be seen. And then they hit a hitchhiker, kind of. I guess he's just a hiker, but this reminds me of Friday the 13th Part 3, where they almost hit the guy on the road with the eyeball, or the hitchhiker that they pick up in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or there's always a hitchhiker. Okay, this is a very tropey slasher thing, of course, and plenty of other movies as well. And then the hitchhiker just keeps saying, he tried, I couldn't, but I tried. What? We don't know. And he dies before we get to know what the hell he was doing there. And then we get the disgusting chef, nowhere near as disgusting as the one in Sleepaway Camp that calls the little girls their baldies. Oh man, that guy's death was very fitting. Definitely never wanted to see that guy live through the movie. Then we get a campfire tale. Okay, here we go again. Campfire, we got like 3 in 1981 with Friday the 13th Part 2, Madman, and The Burning. They all came out and they all have almost exactly the same campfire scene. So it's, that's an essential trope as well. And so we find out that the camp owner comes down and she was one of the victims of Mr. Jingles, who jingles keys and cuts off ears. Maybe so they can no longer hear the jingling of his key. I don't know. So she reveals that she's had her ear cut off, and she tells her backstory of what happened that night, and she opens up her eyes, and her eyes are filling up with blood, and she's looking up at the light, which she claims to be Jesus, and something is preventing her from moving, and this saves her life, because if she would have even flinched for a second when this guy was cutting her ear off, she would have been massacred for sure. So she was able to get through that. That's brutal, man. That's some brutal stuff. And can you hear without your ear? Like if someone just cut your ear off, would it damage like inside? I mean, it would obviously mess up the acoustics. But as long as you still had a hole there, I mean, it would still be some sound, right? You'd be able to hear still. I don't think that would completely deafen you. I don't know. Not an ear doctor. I do not know. And then we got the what does he call himself? This guy comes in and he's like I don't know. He's some older dude, and he got kicked off of Jane Fonda's aerobics videos because his cock was too big and it was flopping around too much. And Montana was a big fan, and she reveals that was her first masturbatory fantasy, was touching herself to that guy's dick. And then he goes and he gives her oral out in a lake, which I don't know. You couldn't be down there very long. It wouldn't. I don't know. Sex in the water is terrible, just all around. There's like nothing good about sex in the water. You can make out in there and you can touch each other a little bit, but anything beyond that is just get out of the water. And then we go to the hospital, the mental hospital, where all the escaped mental patients are out on the loose, ringing 1978, looking for Michael Myers out there. And of course, they're out in the rain, and she's walking, and there's the Halloween homage there, which is slasher genre. You got to bring up Halloween. I know a lot of people cite it as kind of the genesis for what would become the slasher, but I've debated this enough. I don't think it's that, but it's definitely one of the ones. We get freaking Skinner here from X-Files. Mitch is a little cameo here. The killer escapes just like the dude in the Goonies. I thought that was another 80s reference there. He uses the thing and makes it look like he hangs himself. But so I don't know if that was supposed to be, but that's what I took away from that one. And the killer's already at the camp. We have 2 killers at the camp at the end of this, as I said. And she finds the body of the killer, and then of course trips over herself trying to run. Another trope over and over. And of course you got the token black guy, and you've got the slut, and you've got the jock, and you've got all right. And we get a little bit of a connection. First, it looks like she's going to be into Chet, but then she's into the token black guy whose name I didn't write down. Shit. There was a few names. I didn't write down the camp owner. I didn't write down the other dude, the older dude with the big dick. I didn't write down shit. All right, well, whatever. But she's into that guy, and then she sees these dead bodies, and she goes on a run, and she comes back, and they do the one thing I can't stand. This is something, I get it, because there's no way she can find the bodies by this point. I mean, the slasher thing is that the final girl always stumbles upon, once the death toll gets too large, there's just no more hiding the bodies. You just run out of room. It's like, man, I'm running out of room with these bodies. Like, shit, somebody's going to find them. And it's always the last girl. So you have to wait until the very end to have the reveal. Now, American Horror Story isn't going to do that. We're going to get it well before that. But they can't do it in episode 1. Because they're going to do a lot of this at camp. Which is great because, I mean, even take the Friday the 13th franchise. As much as that's based around summer camp, there's only one movie in the Friday the 13th franchise that actually has kids in a summer camp, and that is Jason Lives. I mean, I guess you could technically count part 1 in the very opening, in the flashback, or I guess that's the beginning and then it flashes forward, but I like the summer camp thing. Sleepaway Camp and the laundry list of them. The Burning, oh, great one. But yeah, I mean, the kids are going to show up. It's got to happen. I mean, we're going to do way more of the camp thing before. So when she found those bodies, I was like, how can she find this body already? There's no way. But then, of course, they did but I swear he was right here. Oh, you must be high. Everything's all right. And they're like making fun of her. And it's like, she's covered in mud. She's absolutely frantic. This is like freaking Ash's sister coming back in the first Evil Dead after being raped by a fucking tree, and everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. And she's like, Ashley, get me out of here now. That should have been her. I just don't feel like she'd ever let this go. She knows she's not stoned. She knows this and that. And then boom, she gets a phone call in the middle of the night and she hears keys jangling, and then we get a glimpse of the Night Stalker, which is the name of the killer in Cobra. Isn't it? Or is that the Night Strangler? I think that's the Night. Wait. Shit, it's been a little too long. And which is essentially a slasher. I've always considered that a slasher. And Brian Thompson is like the scariest fucking villain of all time in that movie. So if... I'm not remembering. Stalker? Night Slasher? Strangler? Fuck! Now I'm like completely misremembering that. Now I'm going to have to cover that. I'm going to have to do that for a Slasher Sunday so everyone can give me shit and say it's not a slasher movie. I disagree. I got the same thing when I did Terminator 1 as a slasher movie. That's a damn slasher movie. Alright, guys. Really good first episode. I mean, I don't really have any predictions right now, I don't feel like, because this isn't a whodunit at this moment. as I said, most slasher movies are whodunits. This one just isn't yet. We know exactly who Mr. Jingles is, and we know exactly who the Night Stalker is. Both their faces have been revealed. Now their identities. The Night Stalker, I guess he could be somebody that we don't know yet. But outside of that, I mean, what's there to guess here? I really look forward to the next episode. What do you guys think? Are you feeling this season? What are some of your favorite slasher movies? What are some tropes that I missed? Some connections that you saw that I didn't mention. I probably saw them, and if I didn't, cool. You'll point them out to me. But, oh, Emma, you beautiful, beautiful woman. I'm very excited for the rest of this season. Let's see how it goes, and I'll see you next week. Adios.